beaming from Pacific Junction Hotel to Earth. Girth.
You can also hold it too, or you can do, you know what I mean? So whatever.
Is this distance all right?
Yeah, it's perfect, yeah. So you were saying that you would consider eventually doing a podcast, though? Or not even, no you said you wouldn't do it because of the time.
Yeah. I mean, right now it's just not even in my vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
But I would do it if I had the time. I mean, I thought about it a few times.
And would you ever, would your podcast be exploring kind of art, illustration kind of stuff, or would you branch out to something else?
Yeah. Probably more like art. Like, I'm more of a... illustration is only like a small part of what I do. It is mostly just art. So I think it would be more kind of like that slant. I mean, I started out as an illustrator. I'll save it for the...
No, we can start. Why don't we start?
Are we...
we're rolling. Yeah, that's how what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I started out as an illustrator, and it was something that I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life until I moved to New York City and I met these artists in the East Village in a bar, and they invited me to show with them in a group show. And from that point on, I started doing work for myself, personal work, and more slowly it just became a bigger part of my career, and the illustration has taken a bit of a backseat. I still will do illustration assignments if I can fit it in, or if it's a fun project, but it's mostly the exhibitions and licensing projects and public installation type things and toys and apparel and all kinds of other stuff that I do.
So you're dividing, I guess, a line then, in a sense, between illustration and art, I guess, is what you consider the other... Is that too fancy pants? Are we getting highbrow?
No, I think I'm doing the opposite.
Okay.
I think I'm sort of blurring that line.
Yeah.
Some illustrators that make the transition to fine art will have a completely different style, a completely different way of working that doesn't look anything like the other thing. Me, I never made that distinction. Even when I was promoting myself at an early age, I would mix my commercial work with my fine art work and let art directors use their imagination. And there's a difference in terms of like the subject matter and the kinds of images I'll draw and paint. One can tell, okay, this thing is a little bit maybe out there.
Yeah.
But really, in regards to like the image, it's all just blurred, hopefully.
So then highbrow and lowbrow doesn't even apply to you in terms of like your perspective. You're just kind of just creating, and then whatever comes out comes out.
Whatever comes out comes out. I get slotted. I used to when I started out showing in galleries, because I started at a lowbrow gallery in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I was slotted in that scene, and even the gallery owner at the time said, "Well, you're not really like a lowbrow artist. You're not using a lot of the lexicon of that world, flaming skulls, wearing top hats and stuff like that.
Almost like Ed Hardy-ish kind of.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I dig it. I really like it, but I don't know what kind of brow I am. Unibrow? Middle brow?
I guess so, yeah. You can create like a whole different like brow genre. You know what I mean? So we'll just we'll think about it, and we'll come back to it and see if you've come up with like a new brow level. You know what I mean? I think it's time.
I'm gonna give it some thought.
Yeah. Because I find like you, it's interesting when people do blur the lines. I think it's just a matter. It's always a really taste, right? When people are saying lowbrow or highbrow, but it's like there's almost a contempt for like lowbrow or something like that. But there's some really good stuff in there.
Oh yeah, there's great stuff in highbrow and lowbrow, and some of the artists have made the transition. What started out as being the most lowbrow thing you could do under the umbrella of art. Street art has become highbrow.
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah. Graffiti's kind of graduated.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's growing up, and it's like...
But has graffiti graduated, or has society's perception of what art is graduated?
Oh, snap.
Because I think the thing has always maintained its integrity for the most part. I got to say that some of the street artists working today... are doing some of the smartest work, in the art world.
Your book was it had an introduction with Shepard Fairey.
Yes,
and he's one of the examples of like what you're talking about, where he started off kind of street art, and then quote unquote lowbrow, and he kind of graduated and went into galleries now, and he's like he's like top of the food chain basically.
He is, and I don't think he's ever deviated from anything. I don't think he's ever veered away from the street art sensibility. The only thing that's happened is success and people's label about what he should be doing. The guy started out as an illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
He has an illustration background, and he just started doing this thing he really liked. It took off, and he brought it to more people and merchandise some of it, and then a lot of people in the street art scene with cred started saying that he didn't have any cred for doing this thing. But I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then once the Obama poster, the Hope thing came, and then the train just left the station. Then the labels that you said you were getting initially, have they kind of evolved or they changed how you get boxed in or how you get labeled?
Yeah, I mean, I think people still will think of me as an illustrator first, but it depends on who you talk to. In other circles, I'm a fine artist first. I don't really look at myself as one or the other, but what I do is say, well, mostly the hours that I'm putting in day to day, week to week, are for exhibitions and things like that. So I just kind of relate it to like what's the line share of my job.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, what makes a presentation or not like an exhibition successful then?
Sales.
Sales, is that it? That's the bottom line again. It's just like box office basically.
I think what makes an exhibition successful is if I'm happy with the work and if I could look at it and say, I've achieved something. I've achieved the message I want to say. And if the reviews are good, that also helps. But I mean, there's a lot of pieces I've done nobody will ever see. They were just kind of disasters, and hopefully I'll put something together, and it's an exhibition that I'm proud of.
Is there a lot of editing? Because you just mentioned like pieces that you're not proud of. Is there still a lot of editing, or like, are you getting closer to closing that gap between what you see in your head to getting it down on paper?
Yeah, yes and no. That's a really good question. In some aspects of what I do, it's pretty easy. The technique, painting, and just making things happen. There is that comfortable zone, but then there's that other uncomfortable zone of maybe with some of the messaging and the construction of form in a picture, and also even just trying new media. So I would say that a lot of things don't make it into an exhibition, and that's okay. It needs to happen.
Do you ever like have like a drawer then where you just don't ever let them see the light of day or let the public see them, or do you ever just end up recycling them, or what do you do with it then?
Yeah, there's a drawer.
There's a drawer, a drawer graveyard basically.
Yeah, there's a drawer. I think every artist has a drawer.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of unfinished or unrealized projects?
I wouldn't say a lot of. I do have a lot of starts and stops. Some things, though, I'll look at a few years later and just think, what was I thinking? That's a good thing that I never finished that. And other times I think, yeah, this is kind of not a bad thing. Maybe let me try something else with it, and I'll take it in a different direction. So that part's cool.
It's almost like it needs to sit for a little bit, like to steep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you put the tea bag in and you just kind of walk away.
Yeah.
And then you come back 5 minutes or 5 years later, and then
and it's not even like a lofty kind of sentiment, this beautifully artistic, poetic gobbledygook. Sometimes it's just a word or a character or a form. I'll just look at it, I don't know what to do with this thing, or that thing's not happening, and I'll look at it later on and think, this actually works with something else. It's just like a puzzle, really.
Yeah. How you find as you get older doing this? How long have you been doing this now? You've been doing this for a while. How many years? Do you even know?
Yeah. Professionally, I've been doing this a while. Yeah, since like the early 90s. Since my time in New York after art school. So, 20 years-ish.
And are you finding, as you do this, are you getting more honest too? Like, are you getting more real and more vulnerable and kind of getting more of yourself out there, or does it kind of go in waves?
I hope so. I mean, I'm trying. I think the effort is the most important thing, and the rest you just have to like hope for the best, and keep your fingers crossed that you are being honest. I mean, things get into our head sometimes, right? And you mull things around. I'll look at works later on and have that thought, like, what was I thinking? That was not working, or that was not as honest as I thought at the time. But again, I think as long as the motivation is there, if the intention is good, then likely the picture will hopefully be good.
You're making a face now, dude.
Yeah, I paused in the middle of that thought.
Yeah.
I think if the intention is good, I guess what I'm saying is I won't be hard on myself because I look at the process more than the final result. The final result is just the record of the thing I was thinking at the time. And so I credit myself for at least wanting to be honest about what I was trying to say. And sometimes it doesn't work out.
And the process you have, does that continue to kind of evolve? Because I guess that's what you're just kind of partly saying too, right? Like that's an important element for you, the process from like the idea or the word to the final product.
Yes,
that has continued to evolve, and
it has because of the challenges of just life, of things that happen with exhibitions, of having a stable of collectors and wanting to do new things to show them that I have more than one idea. Mm-hmm. and also for myself, my dealers. So the evolution, I think, is kind of a healthy attitude, and also a humbling one too, really humbling one. I look at some of the some musicians and my friends in bands, and I'm amazed at how pertinent they could be, and evolve and move with so many obstacles, like other personalities, in the mix. Yeah. And I work in isolation, so I have the luxury of just trying crazy things myself and not having to worry about those other considerations.
With music too, it's always like, I don't know if I can write a song again. You know what I mean? You get to a point where like you have to start all over, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this, right?
I don't. Yeah, it's some people are amazing. Their output is incredible. I would say that about like Nick Cave.
He's amazing. Yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah,
he's. I like him more and more with each record, and I thought I was a fan when I was a teenager. I thought I was a huge fan, but now in my life, I look at his music and see him as a soundtrack to my life. I feel like a lifer. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even like, oh my God, I love you. It's like, you've been with me for so long, and your music is always relevant.
And you start, as you get older too, you start to pick up the nuances too of what he's doing. Because I think I also picked up on him when I was younger as well, and you miss some of that.
Yes, it's
right?
true.
It's the same thing with Bowie, right? There's a lot of stuff that's going on with Bowie. And it's like, as you get older, like, oh, snap, I missed like half of that.
Yeah.
Right?
But you also grew up with the people, too, whose music you love, if they're still doing it. And, I mean, a lot of the stuff now, I mean, like, I listen to The Birthday Party, and I find it more charming than anything. Charming because I think about, like, the snot-nosed kid I was, and the snot-nosed kid that Nick Cave was when he was making those
That's
songs,
true, yeah.
right? We were all, like, young and...
Yeah. And so you can also, not just your process change, but your taste is also evolving too, right?
Absolutely.
And as your taste evolves, does that kind of inform then your judgment of how your work is good?
I think so, because you pit it against what you know, and what is maybe a better sense of color, better sense of form, better sense of communication. So the heightened awareness of those things, by looking, at amazing things in the world we live in, and taking those things and holding on to them, start becoming a natural baseline, maybe platforms in a way. So when you do make something, you have that like a higher kind of platform.
Yeah.
Which I think is a nice thing.
You teach, or you did teach at OCAD? Are you still assistant?
I'm currently teaching.
Currently teaching.
Yeah.
And so are these kind of the things, the idea of how you edit yourself, your taste, your process, are these the things that the kids who are coming in through OCAD now are interested in, or what is it that they're interested in learning?
Yeah, they're interested in learning that. They're open-minded. They have drawing and painting skills, but they suffer from the same thing I suffered from at that age, and that's just lack of experience, lack of exposure to a big array of art and design. And so when you're younger, it's also more overwhelming, and you also think about your education and your studies and where you're going to go, and you still haven't found your groove. And so I think young people, I kind of tell them more like, if you just stick with it and do this thing that you love, eventually something is going to stick.
It's like stand-up comedy almost. You know what I mean? You kind of
exactly.
You got to go up every night, and some nights you'll bomb, but you'll eventually start to make people chuckle. Maybe you start making them smile a little bit, then they start to laugh, right? And you get them, you win them over.
You win them over. It's true. It's like that with art. I learned at an early age that 1 out of every 10 pictures is pretty decent, and the other 9 are stinkers. So relish in those stinkers. Let those stinkers happen, and enjoy and embrace them, because you learn more from the pieces that don't work than the pieces that do work. The pieces that do work are just byproducts of all the bad stuff that happened, and you can't even rest on your laurels with those pieces. You have to keep making more stinkers to get to the next good one. And when you're young, you also don't have a lot of stinkers because you haven't made very many pieces. So you're holding on to this little precious, tiny little pile of things. Whereas if you make several thousand more, then you look at the forest for the trees and go, okay, you know what? Some of these ones I thought were pretty great aren't so great.
It really is like stand-up comedy, I guess. It's like, you know what I mean? Because like you said, you get like 2 minutes where it's like this really solid bit about women or boys and girls or something, and it kills. And like you said, then you just keep holding on to that, right? And anytime you start to bomb or you feel you're losing the audience, you're like, I got something now for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you drop it out, and it's like, there you go.
Do you do stand-up comedy?
No, I don't do stand-up comedy, no. So, but I have friends who do, and the creative process is very much similar to what you're talking about, right? Where you just waste a lot of paper. That's what really stand-up comedy and what you kind of doing, you know what I mean? And you just keep creating, and you're just chiseling away, trying to get at something. And then you hope at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, you have something of value that you can contribute.
Right on. It's true. I think it's a good analogy. Right on, for sure. Stand-up comedy is phenomenal. It's one of the most amazing art forms of communication. This past week, I've been revisiting listening to Richard Pryor records.
Oh man, yeah.
It's kind of like he's like a. It's like a catalog purchase, buying a Richard Pryor comedy album. It's sort of like a mainstay of comedy, like a cornerstone.
Yeah. No, it is, and it goes. That's what we were talking about a little bit earlier too, with the honesty as well.
Yeah.
He got more honest, and they recently put out a was it the Richard Pryor box set that you got? They put out.
I don't know about this.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And there was even bits he did towards the end of his life when he had MS, and he had this bit about how he did some comedy. He came up some comedy club or whatever, and he in his wheelchair and the whole bit. And he did some jokes or whatever, and he did okay. And this pretty girl was coming up to him afterwards, and he's trying to flirt with her like old school Richard Pryor. But because of the disease and everything, he started peeing on himself.
I heard about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he's still trying to like be cool and like, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, he doesn't want to lose that image of like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And still work on the girl, but yeah. And he made jokes and stuff like that. Like that's as honest as it gets to tell those type of stories and put that in that context and share that. And I'm like, man, that's honest. Like that's as personal, vulnerable as you can get.
And you put a sharp mind with that honesty, and you have like a killer, just a brilliant person. But I sometimes I wonder about that kind of thing. Like, is intelligence can it be derived? Can you work at it? Can you get somewhere?
Can you get smarter?
Can you get smarter?
Can you get like ginkgo biloba or whatever it is? That's
fish oil and all those things.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to be smarter, maybe you can. But if you're happy, all right, there you go. I mean, you don't know any better because you're pitting what your idea of smart is against what you're interested in. So who cares?
That's true, but then that's almost like a childlike mentality, right?
Yeah.
A 2-year-old's gonna be happy. You put some Legos in front of them, they're done. They lose the afternoon, right? They don't care about learning how to read or anything. But at the same time, what you talked about too, in terms of getting better and kind of evolving and developing a process. I think once you couple hunger or hustle with intelligence, then I think you can start to get maybe not smarter, but you can make better associations. And I think the people that can detect patterns better or faster are the ones who win the race in a way.
That's good. That's a good point. And the hustle thing is necessary. There's a lot of people who are good at art, music, and design, and all kinds of things, but without the ingredient of hustle, and I think I mean, everybody is different too. I have friends who didn't need to hustle and did really well. Had a lot of family support and did really well because they're just really talented people. I had to hustle when I finished art school and I moved to New York.
That's real hustling.
That's real hustle.
Like, even in New York City, the hot dog guy will hustle. It's like, I want to sell 100 hot dogs by the end of the day. So if the hot dog guy on the corner is hustling, the stockbroker is going to be hustling, the artist is going to be hustling, like...
Oh, yeah, the whole city is, and it's contagious.
Yeah, it's an energy.
The energy is good. Like, I had a pretty good part-time job working on the loading docks at Canada Post, and then when I finished art school... I got a call from them, and I told them, never call me again, I'm an artist. I said those words, and the guy said, well, okay, but if you change your mind, here's the number. I never changed my mind.
Good for you.
And at that point, I said to myself, I can make the story poetic and say I looked in the mirror, but I don't know if I looked in the mirror. But
I go for it. Yeah. Embellish.
I said to myself
in the mirror
that I would never do anything for an income that wasn't related to art, that wasn't made from my work, and I've stayed true to that to this day.
Do you find the hustle in New York City is different than the hustle in Toronto?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can only speak to the time when I lived there, and the way the city was then. There was no scene in Chelsea. Back then it was in Soho. And
Soho's completely changed now.
Oh,
it's all like Apple stores and like, you know what I mean? There used to be a lot more cafes and kind of restaurants.
Yeah. And it was Gallery Central. It was the Mecca. Not even just in the city or in the country, but in the world. They were all down there, all the major galleries. The hustle I think is in some ways easier, in some ways harder because of the digital age. When I lived there, nobody was in Williamsburg. I knew there was 2 people in Williamsburg, and I knew one of them. And this guy lived in a building on the East River, and there was nobody else in the building. 11 floors.
Yeah.
And I'd walk up the steps, go all the way to the top, and we could see the prison barge floating in the East River, and there wasn't a soul around. It was like it was abandoned. But the advantage now for people hustling and starting out is the internet, so they can get a bigger audience. But the disadvantage is that there's the internet, and there's a bigger user base.
Yeah.
So you have a bigger competition.
You have to speak loudly now. Speak
loudly. And the other thing also is, no matter how appealing something is, it's still only 72 DPI pixels, and it doesn't have the same pull as seeing a piece of art in a gallery or in a book. Same thing with music too. I mean, I don't want to be the old guy that talks about yesteryear, but there was something about I was talking to some of my friends about this once, that I think having a taste in music is derived from listening to music you don't like and being forced to listen to music you don't like. So if you travel 90 minutes and go to a downtown record store and you buy the record based on the label you like or the band, and you put that thing on a turntable, you're forced to go through that record and then find the songs you like. You turn that record over, you do it again, and you give it another shot because you spent like $10 in that time, in that afternoon, and then it sticks with you in a way, not in the same manner that listening to an MP3 and just cherry picking the hits or the songs that are supposed to be the good ones.
We're losing that ability with the digital age to just dig through the stacks, right? To find, because when you go to that record store, this is all pre-internet too. I'm like same age, right? So it's like it's all pre-internet. So then you're like, all right, I gotta find something good, because you don't want. You had this feeling you didn't want to leave empty-handed. It's the same thing when you're in a bookstore, right? So it's like, all right, what's good? What's cooking? You know what I mean? And you dig through the stacks, right? And you dig through the bookshelf, and you find something. I'm like, all right, this will do. Let's give it a shot.
What I find rewarding though is I don't know if you ever stepped out and talked to some of the young people that come to this bar. But the young people I talk to, like in my class and so forth, a lot of them now own turntables and buy records. And I think that's great. I mean, maybe it's a phase because it's cool and it's retro and so forth. But some of them genuinely are record hounds.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at us with reverence and they, oh my God, you have a first pressing of this thing.
Yeah, yeah. Do you listen to a lot of music when you are creating or like when you're working?
I can't work without music. It's fuel, and so much of what I can talk about in my exhibition is that I can tell you the record I was listening to at the time and where I was, and what songs in particular. I can walk through an entire exhibition and talk about that. It's essential. It's like the creativity just happens when the music happens. Sometimes it'll even happen when I'm away from my studio and listening to music. It's like, oh my God, this is such a good record. I need to be drawing.
Mm-hmm. What do you listen to these days that's kind of like inspiring you or getting you out of bed and putting on pants and going to the studio?
It's always the same stuff, but it's the genre of the same stuff. I like a lot of 60s garage rock, like the early punk stuff. But it's mostly the blues, Mississippi Delta stuff, and I'm always like finding those things, I mean, you can probably tell by my work because it is a lot of the symbolism and the languaging and the tone is from that era.
Yeah,
and the music of the time also is just part of that whole thing.
A lot of people have commented on the old, quote unquote, the old timiness of your images, your fonts, the Monopoly looking type guy, those kind of things, right? And but there's also that sarcasm as well, right? I noticed that too. Is that kind of is the sarcasm kind of informed also from some of your upbringing in India? Because I find I'm Egyptian, so when I go to Egypt, and you look at like you go to a grocery store or a convenience store, whatever equivalent it is. All the chocolate bars and stuff, it pops. There's a different quality to the graphic design, and it's that third world kind of. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I had no upbringing in India. I was born there. I was a baby when my parents moved here, so the upbringing was here. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if you're born someplace, and if you come to another place, whether you're there as a small baby or as an adult. That old place never leaves you, especially from that part of the world.
Yeah.
And because of that, I grew up having that Indian sensibility, yet from an outside perspective, and so that framed my work. I guess a lot of the commentary that I'll make, a lot of the dialogue, some of the Indian things I'll infuse in my work, do come from. That sarcasm, as you said.
There is a sarcasm there. I appreciate it, though.
Yeah.
So, but, and it's really neat to pick up on it. And it's almost, I'm trying to find the right word. I guess it's kind of like a positive sarcasm. It's not like a mean sarcasm or trying to like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I'm not a mean guy.
Yeah, no, I know. So it's not making. I'm
a silly guy.
Yeah, you're a silly guy. So I like that. So you've done like a broad range of stuff too. So I know we've been just kind of picking on just kind of illustration and the drawing and the fine art or lowbrow or middle brow, whatever your genre is. But you've done like, let's see, we got here the Henry Rosen pocket squares.
Yeah.
How'd you get involved with that?
I got involved with that a few years ago. My sister, who is my agent, Vandana, she's been working with me for a few years now, and so she thought it would be great to work with Harry Rosen on a project, and I forgot really how that happened. Like she was going out meeting different people here and there, and but she made a contact at some point, and she said they're because they knew my work and they were interested, and so we did a line of pocket squares and they really liked it, and so we did another line of pocket squares the following year and they liked it, and soon the third line is going to come out.
Oh, okay. When's that gonna be out? Or
I would say. Is it fall now? So I guess fall now, probably in a few weeks, maybe next month.
Okay.
It should be in the Harry Rosen stores.
Does it follow a theme? The last theme was that flirtation.
Yes.
Right? And like, I saw some of it at your Cambridge exhibit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you had like the I Heart Us, but then the heart was all kind of frowny and kind of sour-faced and like... Right, so that it all followed that kind of theme of like flirtation. Does this new collection have a theme as well?
Yeah, it's kind of like I have an aviation theme going on, which is it's an aviation theme. It's kind of like the classic gentleman, but with the aviation theme, that also translated into my exhibition. So my show next month in New York has a lot of planes in
Here
it.
and Now.
Here, no, it's called Hotel There, and so the pocket squares. Have that aviation thing going on as well, which I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but now that I think I never really timed it like that or made the connection.
Yeah.
It just sort of happened, like planes were just a thing going on, and I'm happy with these two because I did some really interesting color palettes, like deeper colors, and Harry Rosen's been really great to work with. The pocket puffs, they call them, they're 100% Italian silk, and they're really nice translations of my work.
You said you just noticed the connection between the aviation. Do you ever find that as you look back at your work, you can see those patterns or like these kind of seasons?
Absolutely, yeah. At the time, though, I don't give it too much thought. And if you actually do want to ask me about that, I meditate and I credit my creativity to spending as much time as I can to not having thoughts or aiming to like sit in a place of stillness, because that's really I think where creativity comes from.
That goes back again to the analogy of like the steeping tea, right? Where you just kind of now, instead of letting the work just kind of sit after you've done it for a little while, you yourself are just sitting there and just kind of steeping, and you got to percolate before you circulate, right?
Yes, and also trust the hand, and stop giving the mind so much credit, and just make and just do and have the thing just evolve on its own without attaching yourself to where it's going, because it knows where it wants to go. And creativity is one of those funny things when you let it be, it thrives. And every artist, designer, musician will tell you, like, those moments of revelation were just like these sparks that happen that can't be repeated again, and nobody knows where that thing
where it comes from. Yeah.
The Greeks had an idea where it came from.
Where did they think it came from?
The gods.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, it's like fire, I guess, right? Instead of like fire is like, here you go. Let's make aviation. This is a great theme for some pocket squares. Hit it. Yeah.
The good thing I like about their viewpoint is that if something works out, you can take credit for it. But if it doesn't work out, you can blame the gods.
Oh, that's really good.
That's good, right?
Yeah. So that's the best of both worlds then. Oh, man. All right. I'm going to write that one down. I'm going to try and use that. Does being also curious help as well?
you have to be curious. You have to be in love with what you're doing, and be passionate, be open-minded, be surprised, be excited, and be willing to do a face plant. Be willing to just have the whole thing be a disaster, and go to that point where you beautifully waste hours on something that sucks, and then you'll never use again. But at the same time, just be okay with it, because the best part of it is the process. Now, that said, I make my living from this stuff, so I have to put it out there in the world, and
Eventually the process has to create something.
Exactly, it has to create something. It's got to, become a business. But I think that stuff also is a snowball effect too. When you have the right thing in place, you set aside the time to make stuff. So, as I mentioned, my sister Vaughn is my agent, but I also have a studio manager, and my studio manager looks after the details of things, so I can spend hours in my studio working.
That's a lot. Like, again, we're going to use another band analogy, but for the bigger bands, U2, Coldplay, Rolling Stones, when they go on tour, they have...
I don't know those bands.
Okay, there you go, yeah. Yeah, I know, you're all in the 60s and the rock and roll and the punk and whatever, but for the rest of us who listen to those bands, they obviously have people just kind of catering to them for the whole day, because when they're on tour, especially at those level, their whole thing is those 2 hours from like 9 to 10 or 10 to 11 or whatever it is, so that those are magic when they get in front of the audience. So everyone takes care of them, they make their food for them, they iron their clothes, all the distractions are gone, and all they have to do is focus on those 2 hours of magic.
You know who is even better, though?
Who?
Chuck Berry. You know what he did?
What did he do? Tell me.
So his thing was that when he would go on the road, there would be house bands in the city where he was playing. Everybody had to know his music, like every note perfectly. And so the expectation was that he would come and they would get a list of the songs. They knew all the songs.
Yeah.
And he would get out there, play, do the set, boom, off into the night, gone
like
again.
Batman. That's amazing.
And I love that, where it's like he doesn't know these people. He just is expecting that they rise to the occasion and then bring it forward. And there's that kind of crash and burn mentality where, like, he's setting up the parameters, but the whole thing could go south.
Yeah. There's a really cool James Brown documentary where he talks about working with his band and how like you said, he just set this expectation. And at first, some of them were like, well, we got to get to that level. I'm like, I just want to come in and play the horn and just go home. Like,
James Brown would weave it into the music.
Yeah.
He would turn around and his ear was so amazing, he could find anybody in the band and point them out, and he would say, "I caught you."
Yeah.
You like screw that note up.
I know.
That was gonna be. It's like, and he would turn into a dance move, man.
James Brown, man.
Yeah.
We're losing guys like that, man.
We are.
And in terms of like how you continue to evolve, like I haven't even tapped in like half the stuff you do with like concert posters, album covers. We talked about the Harry Rosen pocket squares. For you, when you're working, does the project determine the message, or like the message kind of come first and then it's like, oh, that'd be great to put on pocket squares, or like how do you develop the medium and the message?
Yeah, the message is the wheels. Are the wheels. They make the thing go. The whole thing happens because of it. But at the same time, they're an important element, but they're also just the wheels. In that the engine is the thing, right? And it's a separate component from what I am, because the message is my interpretation of it. It's a diving board. A diving board is a benign object. It's a piece of wood or whatever they make them out of, plexiglass, I don't know, whatever, fiberglass, whatever it is.
Sure, let's go fiberglass.
But the person who's jumping off it and is doing all the aerials and the jumps and is winning the gold medals at the Olympics is using the diving board as the thing. I feel that way about the message. The message is essential in the communication, but ultimately comes down to the author's interpretation and worldview of using that message to advance that point. Because then really, a message is it's a. I think the best messages aren't really revelations. They're just things that we already know. I'm not talking about facts, but I'm talking about concepts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's just like it's a universal thing, and that perspective you bring into it, it is your style and your honesty.
There's really no difference between a T-shirt and a book and a movie. They're all just telling stories.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. And that's for you. That's how you look at it. So when you're doing stuff for like the Royal Canadian Mint, you're working on coins, or when you're working with Henry Rosen and you're doing pocket squares, you're still just telling basically the same story, or the message is the same. It doesn't really. The medium just happens to be a little bit different.
Absolutely, and those are two good examples where I'm working with clients that respect and get me. Both Harry Rosen left me alone. The Royal Canadian Mint, I had reservations at first. I thought they would want to rein me in and to do something that was very safe, but it was the kind of the opposite. In fact, the VP of the Mint looked at my design for O Canada, and he said, "You have a character with a tongue sticking out." And then we looked up your work, and this is something this guy does in his art. So we left it alone. Okay, just let it be.
That's nice.
It was nice.
Yeah, and then that again goes full circle to how we started the conversation, which is the whole idea of labels and how people are seeing you and perceiving you. And so now, when you are hired or when you're approached to do a project like these, are you getting a lot more freedom, or are you still getting a lot of the restrictions, or like, I'm sorry, we can't do that, or like, are you still getting no's?
I'm not. Sometimes the restrictions, I mean, it could be just like good art direction based on the constraints of the design, or like of a wall or a window. I had constraints, for example, working on the neons down the street for the Ket Festival, because the window's a certain size, and what I'm working with is a certain size, and the colors I'm working with. But those to me aren't really restrictions. They're just specs of an assignment. When somebody gets restrictive and says, draw this, I will either say, no thank you, call somebody else, or I'll show them a better idea, which is my own, and they'll almost always say, sorry, we should have just listened to you.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of hiring somebody like you. It's
Yeah.
like the story you had with the Canadian Mint, right? It's like, we know what we're getting into with this guy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have the one, what's that image where the guy's picking his nose, and then it's...
Oh, the wine, yes.
Yeah.
Totally repugnant and messing up. Yeah.
Yeah, all right? And it's like, that's classic. So, once based on something like that, you know what you're getting into. So, and you just finished up the exhibition in Cambridge. That finished at the end of September, right?
That's right.
The Idea Exchange, right?
Yes.
And that one was called
A retrospective.
Retrospective, yeah.
Yes.
And how did that go then? Was that then successful and that was good? I went to that one. That was really cool. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was my first municipal gallery retrospective, and I had hundreds of works there, and it was a surprise to me to see them all together in one place, because they came from different places, and I never conceived in my head they would all be hanging out in one room together on display.
It was like a giant room of your head.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some toys in the corner.
Yeah.
There was the pocket squares up in the wall. There was the oh no.
It was a big range. Some illustration, some fine art, various projects I've done. Yeah, a lot of it was there. It was a good representation. But it was also a retrospective. So it was kind of a sort of a career kind of exhibition of the past. And so the past in the sense that, I mean, everything was stuff that I had done. So I kind of looked at it from an outsider perspective of where I once was, not where I'm going. And retrospectives are always like that. They're always like, here's a bunch of stuff that I used to do, but it's happening now because that's how these things just kind of work. But the new stuff, it's always things that are kind of down the line, because by the time I make them and they get seen. So for the last year, I've been working on paintings, mixed media works for this exhibition next month in New York, the Hotel There show, and then I'm also working on new works for a soon-to-be exhibition in about a year-ish in Amsterdam.
Oh, nice.
So the whole thing just always keeps moving forward.
Yeah. And then to use another music band analogy, are you like, I guess the Cambridge one was your greatest hits collection. Are you comfortable putting out a greatest hits collection, or would you rather go work on new material? Does the new material kind of inspire you more than going back and looking at what you've done?
Yes, because the greatest hits collection, I think in the art world, is different than it is in music. In music, it's put out as a product to be bought.
Yeah.
In the art world, it's put out as a product to be seen, so the new stuff gets bought. Because this work is not for sale, because it's a municipal gallery. So the idea is that it brings cultural relevance to me. So when I can get a bigger audience, and then, and I guess in that sense it is connected, because it is part of like, the bigger picture, but it's also never on the same kind of scale as a gallery exhibition. A gallery exhibition, for my career anyways so far, is always more of an intimate thing of like 30 to 50 works, 25 to 45 works, but hundreds of works, that's a retrospective.
Yeah. And then when you're creating for New York City, and you're putting together your works for that, how do you know like it's done? Is it just based on the space again as a restriction, or is there just kind of like you just feel like you've said everything you need to say about aviation, whatever your common themes are, and then that's that?
That's it. The specs of the wall space, the measurement of the length of the wall and the height, and so I do map that out, and I'm making the works. I'm laying them on the floor, putting them on my wall, my studio, and measuring it out and saying, okay, I've got this much space going here, and what can I work with? But that usually happens halfway through working on the show. In the beginning, it's just a free for all. Like, let's just make the stuff.
Yeah.
And then halfway through, it's like, okay, you know what? I can kind of pull back and make some smaller pieces, because I have less real estate now to work with.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. When does the New York City one open up?
It opens soon, November 21st.
November, so about a month from now.
About a month from now, at my main gallery called the Jonathan Levine Gallery.
Okay. And you're also, in addition to that, you're on the stamp, hang on, I gotta get this, the Stamp Advisory Committee for Canada Post.
Yes.
That's awesome. Explain what that is and what you do for them, because it's a small group, right? It's about 12 people, or?
Yeah, it's a small group. We meet in Ottawa 3 times a year, occasionally in a different city like Toronto or Montreal, and we help decide and advise Canada Post on the stamp program, and it's an important important position that I really honor, and I'm humbled by, and I'm really glad they asked me, and I'm excited about the meetings. I've been on the committee now for this is my 4th year.
So you were responsible for Superman.
I wasn't responsible for Superman, but I saw things that nobody else saw, and
man,
and the responsibility is with certain stamps though, the responsibility is bigger sometimes than it is with other stamps. As a committee, we'll also come up with ideas. So there are things happening where I am directly involved with, and other things are just kind of creative input, design input, and other times it's just like, this whole thing isn't working. So it really does vary, but the Superman stamps were really cool, eh?
They were nice, and this the range of the artists too, I thought was really neat too. So you had like the old school Superman from like the 40s and 50s and whatever, right up to like more modern era. I thought that was all really cool. No, it was really well done.
The art directors and the designers at Canada Post are incredible. The things they do, and I'm really impressed. I didn't know much about philatelics before I started this position, but I don't collect stamps, but I really do appreciate them now, and I mean, maybe I will one day start collecting them.
Has it inspired you to kind of mail more things or do postcards or anything?
Absolutely. It's one of those things that it's not just a means of getting mail from one place to another. They're little tiny pieces of art, little squares or rectangles or circles or all kinds of shapes that are hallmarks of our time, of our culture, it's the pulse of where we are in the world and as a nation, and the considerations that we make, like things I never thought about before, about our country from east to west, north to south, reflecting all of Canada, and it's made me look at our nation's history in a more intimate way.
Speaking of Superman, though, do you have, I guess, a comic book sensibility as well? Because there is a little bit of that. Did you grow up reading a lot of comic books or seeing comic books, I guess? Or
yeah, but the kind of comics I liked weren't superhero stuff. They were all Mad Magazine stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of like all that kind of stuff is all that kind of like a little EC comics too.
Yes.
Some of the sarcasm, some of the over-the-topness. And
absolutely. And a big fan of the Fleischer Brothers, Popeye, and Betty Boop. A lot of those folks from the 30s, I like more like the visual and the way it looked than following the story. Mainly for me, like there's very few comic book artists that I resonate with, I guess, or feel inspired by. Maybe it has to do with the format of the thing and just a story within pictures. I like stories by themselves without pictures, and I like pictures by themselves without stories. And when they kind of come together, I think that nuanced relationship is not an easy one, and that's why I've never really been a big fan of it.
Yeah, because some of the images you almost drop the viewer into the middle of the story. There's the one, was a Good Husband, Great Lover, I think.
Good Husband, Good Lover, yeah.
Yeah, right? Where it's just like a photo of, you just draw an image of one dude, and then the next one is like, he's got the mustache.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, you can tell there's like this moment, because to grow a mustache takes a little bit of time, right? So there's like, there was this story that happened. There's some sort of transition, there was some sort of moment they had with a lady or a wife or whatever it is. And it's just this incomplete story, but something happened.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want a before and after. I just want that present moment, almost as if the page has been torn out of a book or something.
That's a great analogy, yeah. That's what it feels like.
Discarded.
Yeah.
And you've just found this thing. So it's accidentally art.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you go out on the street, and you see some taillights kind of broken down on the street, you know what I mean? And you know that there was some sort of accident that just happened here.
Right.
It's like, I just went to work this morning. When did this all happen?
Right.
You know what I mean? But you can tell something just went down.
Yeah.
In terms of, you're just talking about how you have a bit of a story, like you rip the page out of a book. Is mystery also really important to you as a quality in terms of the work that you do?
It is. Mystery is important. I think of it more as intrigue.
That's a better word, yeah.
I aim to because it's a conversation. It's a dialogue, and I'm using a visual, as a means to engage in that dialogue. But with dialogue, you want participation. You want a reaction. And I think in dialogue there needs to be a sense of intrigue. Otherwise, the viewer's just not interested. They don't want to hang out and talk and look at the thing and engage. And so, unless there are elements in something that makes the viewer think, okay, is there something that's happening I'm missing? It's never really a conscious thing, but I also don't think it's a conscious thing in real life. When you're with other human beings at any level, there's always that degree of intrigue and mystery.
Guess what happened to me today?
Exactly.
But with that intrigue, though, is there a tension, I guess, between intrigue and then clarity as well? Because obviously, like when you're working with clients, like you've worked for some like big clients and like magazines and things like that, and like Newsweek comes to you and say we want to do a magazine cover. Like you obviously need clarity there, right? You can't just have like you can't just sell them on intrigue. It'll be amazing.
Exactly, and the clarity's in the message. As I was saying earlier, the wheels or the thing that is just driving the whole thing, but the stuff on top of it that I get to like dance and like move around, like infuse some things. Not any hidden symbols or anything, but things that I guess are just like akin to who I am, because everything is kind of a self-portrait. So the clarity is essential. I think the clarity is even essential in my fine art work. And the message is more obscure, but that doesn't matter. The clarity is still there in the communication of the mood. Mm-hmm. And I want the viewer to pick up on that tone, hopefully.
All right, well, we'll see, because you said November 21, you said?
Yes.
New York City. And which gallery is it?
It's the Jonathan Levine Gallery.
And then next year will be Amsterdam.
Next year, Amsterdam, and next month, Harry Rosen.
Yes. It's a very busy month for you.
It's a busy month, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you for coming in. So we covered like India, we covered sarcasm, we covered Nick Cave,
Richard Pryor.
I think we did a fantastic job, didn't we?
We sure did.
Thanks, Gary, for coming in.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.